Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Women of 09 Solutions Spotlight. I'm your host, Caleb Masters, and today we have the exciting opportunity to speak with the 09 Director of Knowledge Management and Innovation, Zarrin Lilani. In today's conversation, I'll talk with Zarrin about her career journey before learning more about what brought her to join 09 Solutions. I'll then close out the conversation by speaking with Zarrin about what excites her about the future of the company. Without further ado, let's meet today's guest, Zarrin Lilani. As a product marketing leader and supply chain tech strategist, Zarrin is passionate about technology that will unlock resilient and carbon-neutral supply chains. She's built out supply chains and successfully rolled out their supporting tech systems at organizations both large and small. And outside of supply chain technology, she's passionate about sustainability, health, and food systems change. Zarrin, welcome to today's conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, Caleb.
Yeah, of course. Now, I've had the privilege of getting to work with you for over a year now and really enjoyed the process. I'd like for you to tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself. You've had a vibrant career in supply chain at Finless Foods, and you've also done product marketing before that at Nestle. What interested you most in the world of supply chain?
Yeah, so I started in supply chain right out of college, and I was an undergrad in economics. And I think what interested me about supply chain is just when I was studying economics and you learn so much about global trade and containerization and kind of how that's changed and modernized our economy. So I wanted to be a part of supply chain for that reason. And I also really wanted to work in food. So I was really, really happy to work for a food company, Nestle initially. At that time, I loved coffee and chocolate, so it suited my interests very deeply.
Work for the coffee and chocolate company, I have to say. That's a dream job if I've ever heard one. You currently reside in California, and I don't hear a California accent. So tell me a little bit more about what brought you to the U.S. and your shift in geographical locations.
Yeah, of course. So I started in Nestle UK in a demand planning role, and I kind of got up to speed really quickly on different systems and processes. And that led to me being asked to move to Nestle North America, to St. Louis, to the Midwest, to roll out different planning systems and project manage them. And after that, I had a really exciting opportunity to move to Silicon Valley, which is where I live now. And I was leading essentially Nestle's experimental supply chain technology strategy. So trying really new things with different startups, which is where I first came across 09. I didn't initially work for 09 after leaving Nestle. I went to go work for Finless Foods, a small plant-based seafood startup. And I was leading the supply chain there, setting up from scratch. I was the first director of supply chain. And then when I was in that role, I just really kind of missed technology. So that's kind of where the shift came.
We're going to get to a little more about your career at 09 here in a few moments, but I want to step back here first and dive a little more into that experience you laid out here for us. What would you say has been one of your biggest challenges as a woman working in tech throughout your tenured career, whether it be at Nestle, Finless Foods, or frankly, any time you've been working?
Yeah, for sure. So I think this was the same in the UK as the US. But what I found challenging is that I knew that so much of building business relationships took place in offsites or casual dinners and casual meetups. And a lot of those forums were not things that I was particularly interested in, like golf or baseball or whatever it might be. And, building those relationships was really important. So I found that really challenging. However, over time, I felt that I could kind of challenge where people met, where I met people, or where we had these team building events. So I do think it's changed over time. And one really good example that I've seen us doing a lot at 09 is having our corporate events at doing axe throwing, because it sets the bar in a way that's really inclusive for everyone, because nobody's an expert at axe throwing, right? So it's not something where anyone can have some specific knowledge or be more proficient than someone else. So I think things are changing naturally, but I also think it's okay to say, hey, this activity or this dinner is just not as inclusive as I would like it to be. And can we do this activity instead? And that kind of really helps the environment really helps to bring the best out of people, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, so again, a big challenge being just getting into the room where it happens, where the decisions are made or the conversations occur in terms of like business strategy. has been a challenge. I love that example of axe throwing, as you say. I know I certainly am not a professional axe thrower, and it kind of levels the playing field and sort of breaks down those barriers that I think sometimes just subconsciously go up, for people who've been working together for a while or do have those shared interests. So I think that's a great bit of advice, and hopefully we can see more of that in the industry as things move forward. I want to dig a little deeper here into what motivates you, though. Again, you've done some incredible work. What would you say is your why or perhaps core value that motivates you to get out of bed every day?
Yeah, I think the first thing is leaving the world a better place than where you found it. And that's on a small and a large scale. I think on a large scale, that's particularly why I've gravitated to projects and companies that are sustainability driven, because seeing what we see today with climate change, it's really important for me to be a part of something an organization that is improving the state of affairs that we live in, particularly when it comes to climate change. In terms of on a smaller scale, it can really be anything in terms of leaving a process better than when you found it, right? So even if it's something so small as, okay, our users didn't understand how to scenario plan in our system, or they didn't understand how to do what if scenario planning, and we communicated that vision to some end users, some demand planners who were really having a tough time using our technology, and now they're able to do their jobs better. So even a small change in a process like that is really fulfilling for me, and it drives me to communicate the value of our solutions better, because I know that at the end of the day it's impacting the lives of our end users.
Would you say communicating the value to customers and clients, what about that creating products, experiences, and processes really gets you pumped up every day?
Communicating the value is just the first step, but then seeing how that value communicated is working in practice, right? Seeing how that demand planner's life has been made easier and they're able to focus on more deep work. I did that role just 8 years ago, right? So I know how frustrating it is when you can't get the right answer to your questions, you can't justify your forecast, and you can't do the deep work that you so badly need to push the organization forward or push your own career forward. So it's really communicating the value, but also making our users' lives easier and giving people time back to work on more interesting work instead of busy work. That's really important for me.
I think that's really powerful, though. I mean, because it's so easy for folks to get really stuck in the trenches of the work and not be able to see the forest for the trees. So through the work you're doing, you're able to enable planners and people working in supply chains to work more efficiently and strategically to actually solve these larger problems. So I think that's really incredible. You mentioned you heard about O9 Solutions when you had moved out to California. Tell me a little more about that. How did you hear about O9 Solutions, and what exactly about the company attracted you to join?
Yeah, I had heard about O9 Solutions when I was working for Nestle, and actually our Chief Revenue Officer, Stefan DeBars, actually did a pitch to me and my team. And I was really, really impressed by the product at the time and about the vision for integrated business planning. And so when I was considering coming back into tech, moving out of plant-based foods, somebody reached out to me from O9, and I was really, really excited to chat because I really liked the product vision, and I especially liked the fact that sustainability was built into a lot of decision making. That was really, really important to me because I still, with O9, I got back into tech, but it intersected with sustainability, which is really, really important for me.
Of course, sustainability is a huge trending topic these days, but what about working in the realm of sustainability or working on solutions to support that really, again, excites you both at O9, but also just in the world at large?
Yeah, so in the world at large, I think 2020 was a year a lot of us had a lot of time to reflect. And for many of us stuck at home in California, we had red skies. The impact of climate change was extremely frightening. And I just thought, okay, I have to make a change. I have to do something that's driving some kind of change. And it's really, it's really simple in a way. I really like the way, if you read Bill Gates' book on climate change, he breaks it down into different segments, like how we make things, how we move, and how we eat, for example. And so many of the companies that are O9 customers, they create automotives, they create food, and they all need to measure their emissions and they all need to change, right? And all these industries are the ones that are polluting. And then I thought, okay, by being at O9 and helping these companies measure and optimize their sustainability strategies, I'm not just impacting one part of this chain. I'm touching on how steel is made. I'm touching on how semiconductors are made and how food is made. And it's really important that all of these companies make their contribution to reducing emissions.
Sustainability being such a pressing topic, it's great to hear a little more your personalized experience. I think a lot of times these buzzwords kind of get boiled down and made more abstract. But again, as you said, you saw very, very real impacts of climate change. And instead of just deciding to ignore it or work alongside, you decide, hey, I want to work on a solution across the supply chain. So I think that's really exciting. Now, in terms of working at O9 as a company, what would you say differentiates O9 Solutions from other workplaces that you've been a part of?
I think what differentiates O9 for me is the you can try anything culture. So if you have an idea about how to improve a product, process, event, service, you can do investigation as much as you want and come and present it back to your manager or to leadership, and they will listen. It's not that they're definitely going to say yes, but they will listen. And if they think it's a good idea, you can implement it, even if it's not in your specific area. So I think that try anything attitude, I think in terms of modernization of work activities, so many of us have been able to improve and integrate tools already from, for example, in generative AI. I know also you're using a lot of those tools, right, Caleb?
Yes.
So in other companies I've been a part of, there was definitely more blocks into even, you wouldn't even be able to open this software because it would be blocked, right? But the fact that you can kind of optimize all these different parts of your role and come up with new ideas of how to work is really exciting to me. And I think it differentiates O9 from a lot of other companies.
O9 Solutions is very results oriented. Everyone's willing to listen to new ideas when they're brought to the table. How would you say this approach, this try anything approach, really fosters innovation within our workplace culture?
If you can optimize different parts of your job, you can focus on even more innovative endeavors, for example. So when we're trying to design a digital customer experience, when we sell to a customer or when we onboard a customer, they have a totally different experience instead of just looking at hundreds of Excel documents and project plans, right? We want to make it a really interactive, easy experience for them. We're going to get there on a really big scale, but because we're trying all these really different things, like how can we build no-code websites? How can we create knowledge assistants? And we're trying them really fast and seeing what doesn't work really fast. So maybe a knowledge assistant sounds great, but we're going to test it with customers first to see if it's useful. So I think that iteration helps you get to a better product faster. And I think that will happen with our digital customer experience because things will not go right, but at least you know it sooner rather than later.
Well, and every customer, every client's different, has different needs. And a lot of times that requires innovations to find the right solution to solve for that very specific challenge they're looking at.
Definitely. I think also when it comes to our product, if there's a specific problem, and this is kind of how our supplier relationship management solution came about, is, okay, this is a really unique problem. You have hundreds of suppliers to communicate with. How can we help you? And then we worked with the teams to build a solution. So I think it's just helping us build solutions that work for our customers faster.
No, absolutely. Again, that's one of my favorite things about working here at O9 is innovation really is baked into the DNA. Try new things, find solutions that get us results that help satisfy customers. Again, a really powerful thing that, at least from my perspective, that sounds like is yours as well, sets us apart. You also have a lot of really unique hobbies and interests, many that I've had the pleasure of hearing about as we've worked together. So maybe for our listeners, you could tell me what kinds of hobbies or interests really give you energy outside of your work with the company?
Yeah, so as you know, I'm a big ocean person. Surfing and paddleboarding are huge things in my life, huge parts of my life, particularly surfing. I don't know if I convinced you to go out on a surfboard in Waikiki or not.
Not this trip.
But yeah.
Maybe next time.
Next time, exactly. Or you can try the cold California water. Much less appealing for new surfers.
Put me down.
Yeah, so that's a huge part of my life. Being in the water and having to fight for your life generally does give you a lot of clarity. on what's important, and it does give you a sense of really having to concentrate and not be distracted, which I think carries over to my work because when I try and complete something, I'm now very single-minded, which I think is helpful when doing deep work.
Absolutely. You got to be focused on the problem and solution. And I think this is a challenge that we're seeing, an increasing challenge that we're seeing just in the world at large. More distractions than ever, more notifications from more devices. So again, I wouldn't sell yourself short on being able to focus and hone that craft. Really enables you to do that really thoughtful, deep work that you're describing there. I do have to ask, what is your favorite place to surf?
Yeah, so my favorite beach to surf is in a town called Bolinas, which I will probably get in big trouble for mentioning this because the town is so secret that they've tried to take down the signs leading to it and everything. But it's definitely my favorite place to surf. It's a very long, slow wave. You could be on it for maybe like two minutes, it's a long time. It feels like 30 when you're on it. So yeah, it's really nice.
Very impressive. Take note, listeners. Hidden beach, it sounds like. It's nice to have that little getaway spot for yourself.
Yeah, it's nice to feel inspired. And most times that I go surfing, I feel inspired. I feel positive. I feel like, oh, wow, the world is so amazing. And I think the more positive that you can be when you come back to your desk, the better, because you're going to handle any task with more enthusiasm. So I think that's one of the big ways that it helps to contribute.
And again, especially when you're working on something like sustainability, what's more inspiring than actually being in nature and experiencing it on the regular? Zarrin, we've got many exciting projects ahead of us. What would you say excites you most about the future at O9 Solutions?
So what I'm most excited about is rolling out some of these sustainability solutions at existing clients. One example is we just started to roll out for a large beverage company sustainability metrics across all of their integrated business planning. The vision is eventually to also, when you think about food and beverage companies making decisions, to what other metrics can you put in there which are good for the world and for people's nutrition? How can you plan for a new product and put less sodium in it, for example? So I think that's really amazing to see that these metrics will be included in such a large company's decision-making process.
Again, seeing the direct impacts of the new tools we're developing around sustainability, I know that's something a lot of us here are very excited to see, the larger impacts. It's going to have global impacts on how companies are producing their goods that are making it to store shelves. And as a woman working in tech, if you could go back and give a younger version of yourself at the beginning of your career advice, what would you share?
Yeah, so I would say be curious and let that curiosity lead you, and don't worry about having a set path. It always reminds me of Ted Lasso, but it's true, right? Who would have thought, like, when we started our careers maybe 10 years ago, product marketing maybe wasn't even such a big career. I don't know if podcasting was, right?
Hardly at all. Certainly not with brands. It was more of a hobbyist tool. Tech evolves fast.
I think that's the thing. Just look at where the world is moving. Look at what interests you. And if you can just continue your career along that path, then things will evolve in a different way than you expected them to.
Absolutely. Well said. Well, Zarrin, it's been a pleasure talking with you today. Is there anything else you'd like to add for our listeners regarding your experience working here at O9?
Yeah, I think energy and enthusiasm makes a huge difference to all the projects that we work on at O9. So if you are enthusiastic about supply chains, about business planning, then check out open roles.
Well, Zarrin, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us for this Women of O9 Spotlight today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Caleb.
And listeners, thank you so much for joining us for this special Spotlight. If you enjoyed today's conversation and you're interested in learning more about joining the company, take a word from Zarrin and head on over to o9solutions.com. You can also follow O9 Solutions on LinkedIn to get notifications about our open roles on the regular. And if you'd like to take it a step further, you want to join O9's rapidly growing rocket ship, you can check out the current job openings at o9solutions.com/careers. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. We'll catch you again next time.